Rain hammered relentlessly on the thatched roof of Kola and Yawande's modest home, nestled near the bustling center of the town, close to the revered Sango shrine. The thunder roared in the backdrop of the relentless downpour, which had not ceased for 2 days, marking the commencement of the Sango festival. This sacred festival spanned 7 days, during which the townspeople remained indoors for the first 6, leaving the streets to the fervent Sango worshippers. Kola and Yawande lived a simple life, but were filled with anticipation as they awaited the birth of their first child. After 7 years of marriage and countless prayers, Yawande was finally 8 months pregnant. However, the joy of impending parenthood was overshadowed by the sudden and unexpected onset of labor pains. Far too early, and during the strictest phase of the festival. "I can't bear this any longer. We need to get to Iya Abiye," Yawande gasped, each word punctuated by a wince of pain. "But you know that's not possible," Kola replied, his voice thick with worry. "The worshippers will punish anyone they catch outside during the festival." "I'm about to give birth, Kola. I can't stand this pain any longer. We must see Iya Abiye," Yawande insisted, her tone resolute despite her agony. Kola, seeing the determination in his wife's eyes, finally agreed. "All right, it's only 7 blocks away. Maybe we can sneak out quietly without anyone noticing in this storm," he decided, his voice conveying both fear and resolve. Bundling themselves against the torrential rain, they stealthily left their house under the guise of the dark, stormy night. They moved cautiously, with Kola supporting Yawande, as they tiptoed towards the home of Iya Abiye, the village midwife, renowned for her wisdom and skill. Kola and Yawande arrived at the humble abode of Iya Abiye, soaked but hopeful. The midwife, who was known for her deep knowledge and experience in childbirth, greeted them with a mix of concern and urgency as she ushered them inside her warm, dimly lit home. Without a moment's delay, Iya Abiye prepared a space for Yawande, helping her onto a mat laid out in the corner of the room. The atmosphere was tense, punctuated by the ongoing storm outside that seemed to mirror Yawande's labor pains. With each contraction, a clap of thunder resonated, as if the storm was conversing with her pain. As Yawande's cries grew louder, the storm intensified. Then, amidst a particularly fierce crack of thunder, her child was born. The baby's first cry sliced through the tempest, strong and clear. Iya Abiye lifted the newborn, her eyes widening with a mix of awe and recognition. There was something extraordinary about this child. "This child," Iya Abiye said, her voice thick with wonder and gravity, "was born during the mighty thunderstorm at the height of the Sango festival. He is blessed with the power of Sango himself. Remember, his hair must never be cut. It must always be plaited to maintain his connection to the deity's strength." Kola and Yawande nodded, understanding the weight of her words. They named their son Akin, a testament to his strength and the remarkable circumstances of his birth. As Akin grew, his parents noticed unusual occurrences that confirmed Iya Abiye's predictions. Akin's emotions seemed tied to the weather. His tears brought rain, and his laughter seemed to brighten the skies. They kept his powers a secret, fearing how others might react. By the time Akin was a teenager, he was aware of his unique connection to the elements, though he had learned to control it somewhat. The village, however, faced a new terror. A wild animal, believed to be a hyena, had been raiding homes, devouring livestock, goats, rams, chickens, vanishing into the night after each attack. The villagers were in a state of constant fear and unrest, their pleas for help echoing up to the king's palace. One restless night, driven by a mix of courage and a desire to protect his village, Akin decided to confront the beast. He waited in the shadows, near the pens where the attacks were frequent. Hours passed. the village cloaked in a tense silence, until the creature stealthily appeared, its eyes glinting in the moonlight. With a blend of bravery and the inherent power he wielded, Akin faced the hyena. Instead of using violence, he calmed the beast with his presence, an inexplicable bond forming as he stared into its eyes. He managed to capture it without harm, using ropes to secure it. At dawn, when he presented the subdued animal to the village, relief and joy spread among the people. Akin's actions not only restored peace, but also bolstered his reputation as someone with a special connection to the forces of nature. As Akin grew older, his reputation for heroism and special connection with the elements grew. So did the challenges faced by his village. A severe drought struck the land, leading to a famine that left fields barren and water sources dried up. The villagers, already aware of Akin's extraordinary birth and his proven abilities, turned to him in their time of desperation. With the situation growing dire, Akin decided it was time to use his gifts not just to intervene in daily troubles, but to address a crisis that could doom his entire community. He went directly to the king, determined to offer a solution that could save the kingdom, but also change his own fate. Before the king and his council, Akin spoke boldly. "Your Majesty, I can summon the rain to end this drought, but my service comes with a condition. I wish to marry your daughter, the princess, and be named your heir, as you have no sons to succeed you." The king, taken aback by the audacity of the request, hesitated. The kingdom was indeed suffering, and his people were desperate, but the price Akin asked was high. After a long moment of tension-filled silence, the king agreed. He was skeptical, but saw no other choice, as his advisors nodded in reluctant agreement, their eyes reflecting the gravity of their plight. Akin stood in the open fields, surrounded by the villagers and the royal court. He raised his hands to the sky, his voice chanting in an ancient tongue, passed down through generations, tied to the Sango deity. The sky, responding to his call, darkened with storm clouds. A soft rumble grew into a mighty roar of thunder as the first raindrops fell, quickly turning into a torrential downpour that soaked the parched earth. The villagers rejoiced, their chants of gratitude mingling with the rain. True to his word, the king reluctantly gave his daughter's hand in marriage to Akin and named him a prince of the realm. The princess, impressed by Akin's determination and abilities, found herself drawn to his strong will and noble intentions. Together, they became a symbol of hope and renewal for the kingdom. Akin's popularity soared as he was celebrated as a hero and a future king. His influence eclipsed even that of the king, leading to unease among the royal advisors. As Akin's power grew, so did the king's fear that he might be replaced sooner rather than later. As Akin's influence and popularity continued to rise, the palace's atmosphere grew tense with whispered conspiracies and unease. The king, once a decisive leader, now found himself overshadowed by his young and charismatic son-in-law. The royal advisors, seeing the shift in power dynamics, began to voice their concerns more openly, suggesting that the king take action to reaffirm his authority before it was too late. The king, troubled by these discussions, realized that his legacy and the future of his dynasty might be at risk if he didn't manage the situation wisely. The arrival of a son by the king's new wife intensified these fears. With a direct heir, the king was now caught between his promise to Akin and the traditional claim of his newborn son. One evening in the quiet of the royal chamber, the new queen, the king's recent wife, shared her deep concerns with the king. "My king, now that we have a son, why should Akin succeed you? Should not our own child inherit the throne?" she questioned with a worried tone. The king, troubled, responded with a heavy sigh. "I have already promised the throne to Akin. It was a pact made in desperate times." "But my king," the queen pressed on, her voice tinged with urgency. "You are the reigning sovereign. Your word is law. Do you not see how the people praise and adore Akin, perhaps even more than they do you? We must consider our son's future. He is the rightful heir." The king, more anxious than ever, lay back, his gaze lost to the ceiling as silence enveloped the room. The weight of his queen's words pressed heavily upon him, rendering him sleepless into the night. The conflict between his promise and the future of his bloodline left him deeply tormented, questioning the path he had chosen for his kingdom. In a private meeting with his most trusted advisors, the king expressed his dilemma. "Akin has become more than a hero. He is almost a second king in the eyes of our people. If I don't act, I might well be ruling in name only," he confided. One of the advisors, an old and cunning courtier, suggested a plan. "Your Majesty, find out the secret of his power. If we can discover how he summons the rain, perhaps we can find a way to neutralize him without causing an uproar among the populace." The king, desperate for a solution, agreed to this plan. He decided to use his daughter, Akin's wife, as an unwitting pawn in their scheme. She was close to Akin and might unknowingly reveal his secrets. One evening, the king spoke privately with his daughter, expressing fake concerns about Akin's safety. "My dear, you know how much your husband is revered and how his powers are coveted. For his safety, we must know if there is a way to protect him, perhaps a secret that ensures his strength." The princess, naive to her father's true intentions and genuinely concerned for her husband, agreed to find out. That night, as they lay together, she asked Akin about his source of power. Akin, deeply in love and trusting his wife completely, shared his secret without hesitation. "My power will remain as long as the lock of hair, given to me at birth during the great thunderstorm, remains uncut and plaited upon my head." The next day, the princess relayed this information to her father, who masked his delight with feigned worry. "For his own safety, we must keep this a secret," he urged. In the dark of night, as the palace slept, a maid quietly entered the quarters of Akin and his wife, carrying out the king's sinister orders. The maid had been loyal to the king for many years and was chosen for this task due to her discretion and loyalty. With a heavy heart, she slipped a sleeping potion into the wine that she knew Akin and the princess would drink that evening. Both Akin and his wife, unsuspecting of any foul play, drank the poisoned wine and soon fell into a deep, unnatural sleep. As the couple lay unconscious, the king's guards, accompanied by the royal barber, silently entered their chamber. With a precision born of necessity, the barber cut the sacred lock of hair from Akin's head, the source of his mystical powers. The guards then carefully carried Akin away to the dungeons, leaving the princess still sleeping, unaware of the betrayal that had just occurred under her roof. Akin awoke the next morning in the cold, damp confines of the dungeon, his head feeling unnaturally light. Panic set in as he reached up and felt the absence of his lock of hair. Stripped of his powers, the realization of his vulnerability and the betrayal hit him hard. Despite his initial despair, Akin's resolve hardened. He knew he had to find a way to escape and confront those who had betrayed him. Meanwhile, the princess awoke to find her husband missing and her room in disarray. Frantic, she demanded answers. When no one in the palace would tell her where Akin was, she began to suspect that something terrible had happened. Her fear was confirmed when she finally forced the truth from the maid who had drugged their wine. Distraught and filled with guilt over her unintended role in her husband's downfall, The princess resolved to right the wrong. The princess decided to act. Late at night, she sneaked into the dungeon, where she confessed everything to Akin. "I'm so sorry, my love. I was fooled by my father's words to find the source of your power. I never imagined it would come to this," she sobbed. Akin, his heart heavy, could not deny his love for her. "I know you did it because you believed it was right and did not know the true intentions of the king. We cannot change the past, but perhaps we can still alter the future," he whispered back. With newfound resolve and determination, the princess listened intently as Akin shared his request. He spoke of the legendary Sango, the sacred axe of Sango, believed to restore and amplify the powers of its rightful wielder. The journey to retrieve the axe would be perilous and test the limits of her courage and devotion. "I need the mystical axe of Sango to regain my strength and ensure our future," Akin explained, his voice a mixture of hope and gravity. "It's kept in the temple of Sango, far to the north, guarded by challenges only the bravest can overcome." The princess, without hesitation, agreed to undertake the journey. She left under the cover of night, her heart set on retrieving the axe to not only restore Akin's powers, but also to redeem her role in his downfall. Her journey led her across rugged landscapes, through dense forests, and over mountains. Along the way, she faced numerous trials, from crossing turbulent rivers to evading wild beasts. Her resolve, fueled by love and the desire for redemption, kept her going when her body cried out for rest. Finally, after several days of travel, she reached the Temple of Sango. It was a formidable structure, ancient and cloaked in vines, its entrance marked by statues of warriors from ages past. Inside, the temple was dark and filled with the echoes of those who had ventured there before her, many of whom never returned. Using her wits and the skills she had learned from her travels, the princess navigated the temple's trials, proving her worth to the spirits of the temple. At the heart of the temple, she found the Sango, the mystical axe of Sango, its handle pulsating with an ethereal glow. With a deep breath, understanding the gravity of her mission, she reached out and cautiously grasped the axe. Although she had hesitated, fearing the surge of power it might unleash, the touch was a silent confirmation of her resolve. The axe felt right in her hands, meant for this purpose. With careful reverence, she wrapped it in a piece of cloth and carried it, feeling its dormant power, destined to be reawakened by Akin. With the axe concealed beneath her cloak, the princess made the arduous journey back to the palace. Sneaking back into the dungeon where Akin was held, she passed the axe to him, their eyes meeting in a silent vow. The moment Akin's hands clasped the Sango, a brilliant light filled the cell, and his strength returned tenfold. He unleashed a fury upon the cell door, breaking it open with a single strike. The guards, startled and overwhelmed by his power, could not stop him as he made his way to confront the king. However, when face to face with the king, Akin's heart chose forgiveness over revenge. His ordeal had taught him the value of mercy and the heavy burden of leadership. Addressing the king and the gathered court, Akin declared his intent to leave the palace and live among the people, serving as a true leader from the heart of the community. Together with his wife, Akin moved to the outskirts of the town. There they were welcomed with open arms by the villagers, who respected and revered Akin for his wisdom, strength, and benevolence. From their new home, Akin and the princess led with kindness and were sought out in times of trouble, guiding their people with the strength of the Sango and the depth of their shared experiences.